Hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's Healer's Journey webinar. Tonight we'll be focusing on working with animals, and of course there is so much to working with animals that I can't fit it all in one webinar. So I'm going to be dividing this up into a few different webinars, and even so, I can't cover it all. The one aspect that I do want to talk about, I'm just going to focus on one aspect of working with animals, and we'll get to that in just a minute. First of all, our proclamation, our intentions, and power. The information, thoughts, and ideas presented here honor your intentions to empower you with natural choices that support personal well-being. Conveyed with compassion, truth, and openness, our intention is to help you see beyond the filters of disclaimers which tend to support a one-sided approach to the health industry. And of course, we always proclaim that we are whole, vibrant beings in physical form and maintain sovereignty to nourish, support, and empower our lives with divine gifts and a natural ability to heal. Now, when you saw the title of this webinar, were you thinking, oh, Rosemary's going to talk to us about how do we heal animals? That's something I really want to do. How do we heal animals? And that's not exactly what we're going to be doing tonight because, like I said, there's so much involved. But I do want to mention here the book that I wrote published in September of 2016, Heal Together, Natural Health Solutions for Animals and Their Humans. If you do not have that book, you can find it on Amazon. And it's a wonderful tool for you that helps begin the process of working with your animal. And that's where we always start. We start with ourselves and our family, our animals. Now, in my book, I have a chapter called The Nature of Animals. So that's really what we're going to be spending some time on today. This happens to be chapter 2 in the book, The Nature of Animals. And here's a quote from the book. Scientists study the anatomy and physiology of animals, noting their behavior in the wild or in service to humans. They analyze animal genetics, often minimizing the value of animals on Earth as, well, animals, less than human. Animal lovers know differently. Animals are intelligent, emotional beings capable of love and sacrifice. Their lives among humans serve many roles, not the least of which is demonstrated in their interactions with humans. Whether family pet, farm animal, or wild creature, the lives of animals on Earth are interwoven with ours in complex ways. Now, if you're an animal lover, that should sing to your heart, right? Because you know that your animals, your pets, the interactions you have with other animals are more than, oh, the dumb animal, right? And I've met people like that. I know people like that who say animals are dumb. Animals don't know. And you and I know differently. That's why you're here. So in talking about the nature of animals, we want to say, well, how are animals different from humans? And how are animals the same as humans? And we can look at this and begin to analyze it. And of course, with my biology background and all you intellectual types out there who are going to also want to delve into it, we're going to look at it scientifically just for a little bit. And we'll focus first on the physical aspect of animals and how are they different and how are they the same. And we'll come back to emotional and spiritual. In the physical aspect of animals, let's take a look at the genes, the genetics, right down in the DNA. We'll talk about anatomy, physiology, and the environment. Now, this may be a tool you haven't seen before. National Geographic is a wonderful resource, and I found this article that talked about the percentage of genes that are the same between animals and humans. And this screenshot here is actually a game that you can play on that website, where you can click the picture in the center of the circle and move the picture to what percentage of the genes you think are the same in people as that animal. So just for the heck of it, you might notice that it's not all animals there. There's baker's yeast also, right? And the variety of animals. Oh, there's also wine grapes. Well, not all animals, but some are also vertebrates. They have a backbone, and some are invertebrates. They're insects, perhaps, or worms. And yet, everything fits here on this puzzle. There is crossover. There is genetic similarity between all of these creatures. Let's take a look at a few. Chimpanzees, which were not listed on that diagram, have the highest similarity in their genetics as humans. 98.6 to 99% of a chimpanzee's genes are identical, are the same as human genes. Now look at these high percentages here for mice and for cats. 90% of their genes are the same as humans. Interesting, huh? Dogs, 84% of their genes are the same as humans. Fruit fly, depending upon which source you are looking at, 47% to 61% of their genes are the same as humans. And yeast, by the way, 18%. Now, as a scientist, we have to take a step back from this data and say, wait a minute, what does this mean? And what are they really looking at? Are they looking at just a snapshot of the genes? You know, just one little segment of the genes? And between that segment of genes or that particular chromosome perhaps even, how do they analyze that? Part of me is saying, well, they can't really analyze the whole thing because in the Human Genome Project, they haven't figured out all of these genes. They don't know what they're for. They haven't got all the data yet. So whatever they're basing this data on, we take that piece and say, okay, I'm not sure exactly what it is they're talking about. I haven't read the research, but just based on this right here, right in front of us, we can say without any doubt that there is some similarity, genetic similarity between animals, insects, yeast even, and people. Now, how can that be? How is that possible that animals and insects and yeast even, and wine grapes and other things here all around us that are not human, how is it possible that their genes can be just like ours? Well, the genetic expression of genes doesn't have to come out as human. You know, the 90% of mice genes, for example, don't necessarily express themselves as, well, they certainly don't express themselves in human form, but they do exist. So the expression of genes is another factor here. Even though the genes are similar, they are not expressing themselves in the same way. But they're similar. So we have to go back into why are they similar? Well, we all come from the same place. We all come from Earth. We are made of the same molecules. We're made from the same beginnings, essentially. And so, of course, there's going to be some similarity. That's one of the physical aspects of the nature of animals. Of course, the nervous system and sensory organs, just look at that picture. If you're online, you can see this little boy hugging a dog. They're both smiling. Their eyes are in about the same place, their nose in the same place, their mouth in the same place, their ears are in about the same place. The expression of their genes is pretty similar in this case when you're looking at their face. And their head, the head of the boy and the head of the dog, they're at the same end of the body. They're at the head end. And there's a tail end, and there are feet, and there are hands, right? So there's a nervous system in place, the brain, the spinal cord, and all of the sensory organs. They're all in about the same place, whether you're a human or a dog in this case. So there's a similarity there, a physical similarity on how a human and how a dog can perceive the world by smell, by sight, by taste, by moving forward, walking forward rather than walking backward. Eyes are in the front of the head, right? Not in the back. And so we move in the same way. We receive messages in about the same way. Digestion, reproduction, movement, these are all similar between humans and most animals. Even worms have a digestive system, a reproductive system. They have muscles for movement. They have nerves that they can sense in their environment. They have a head end and a tail end. And so we can say, well, even a worm has similarities to a person, because we're all composed of the same kinds of systems. Structure and function. Here's a picture of a young girl on the back of a horse. Well, there's a spine. There are limbs, front limbs, back limbs, ears, head. The muscles and the bones function in similar ways between an animal and a human. In many cases, you can find these similarities time after time. So there's something to this. There's something about the similarity between animals and humans. And yet there are differences. Of course, a human does not look like a horse. And a human does not look like a starfish. A human does not look like a fruit fly. But there are enough similarities between them on how they exist in the world that we can't ignore the similarities, and we can't ignore the origins and the beginnings. Of course, the environment, the physical environment, has a lot of similarities as well. In this case, dogs, of course, live with humans. They're domesticated animals, and they live in people's homes, and of course, many times will sleep in people's beds. They will occupy the same space, and in occupying the same space, breathing the same air, exposed to the same toxins, I hope eating similar foods. That's one thing that I encourage. You want your animals to eat real food, meats, vegetables, things like that, rather than processed foods. And in the environment, you need to spend time outside. You have to have shelter. And all of these things are similar and yet different. Animals in the wild will have shelter. They will have a place they call home. They will have a nest or a burrow. And they will have interactions with the environment the same as people do. They will all be exposed to toxicity. They will all be required to eat. They will all have an interaction with their environment where they need to protect themselves, or where they need to go out and hunt or find a mate. So environment is another similarity for the nature of animals. Now, why does this matter? Why does the physical nature of animals matter? especially when we're talking about the healer's journey. And you as healers, you who have identified yourself as healers, why does the physical nature of animals matter? Well, it does matter in the sense that we can have a greater understanding and awareness. When we work with animals, we want to know more about them. We want to know about their structure. We want to know about their bones and muscles. We want to understand who they are physically and how they interact with their environment. This greater understanding is extremely important in working with animals. I didn't realize how important this was when I was studying biology years ago, because I didn't know I was going to be doing this intuitive work. And so now when I look back on that, every step of the way, it all mattered. All of the studying I did for plants and animals in my biological sciences mattered. The second point, developing your sensory awareness. Now, we talk about this in our workshop, Sensory Intuition. When you are developing your sensory awareness, you receive intuitive information that may show up in your body. You may feel it in your body. So what I mean by that is, for example, when I'm working on a client, let's just say I'm working on a dog and offering Reiki healing energy to a dog. I might, for example, feel a pain somewhere in my body, or I might feel nauseated, or I might feel headachy, or I might feel, one time it felt like I had a thorn stuck in my foot for a lost or missing animal. And so because I have developed my intuition to a high degree, then I can have a better understanding in working with animals where things are going on in their body or how they are feeling about something. So developing your sensory awareness while working with animals is very important. Having an understanding of their physical nature, how they stand, how they walk, how they see things in the world, what their sense of smell is like, really matters. Building relationships with animals. You want to have an understanding of their physical nature so you can have a better relationship. For example, if a cat is not happy, peeing all over the house or not using the litter box, or getting into fights or hiding or having some kind of behavior problem, your understanding of their physical nature can actually contribute to solving any problems, to resolving any disputes or finding a resolution. Building a relationship with animals means understanding their point of view, not just in how they think, but how they interact with their environment, how they feel in their body. Do they like heights? Will the cat jump to the top of the refrigerator and see the world from that bird's eye view? If you have a good relationship with the physical nature of animals, then you can feel that, you can know that, and understand it. So you want to build that relationship with animals. Also, eliminating fear. And what I mean by that is that if you are afraid of a particular kind of animal because maybe it's scary, because it's venomous, because it's dangerous, big teeth, predator. If there is a fear around it, then you're not really going to connect with that animal, are you? And so to understand the physical nature of animals means that you can help eliminate fear. Now, this made a big impact on me when I was speaking to a person. I will just say, messaging with a person. I won't discuss the relationship of this person, but she commented one time that there was a snake in her pool house. And I said, well, why is snake showing up for you today? Maybe instead of being afraid of snake, you might take a step back and look at what snake brings for you as a message. She didn't like that. She looked up snake online and found all this evil stuff, religious stuff, spiritual stuff associated with snake, also perhaps pagan stuff, information that didn't resonate with her religious background. And so by having a fear of snakes, and oh, by the way, she got out of that pool house in a hurry, never adjusted the temperature of the pool like she intended to when she walked in. She just let the fear of snake overwhelm her, and so she just ran away. That was her resolution for dealing with snake. But if you understand the physical nature of snake, you might be able to eliminate the fear. And what would happen if you did that? Well, I selected two animals here to talk about today on their nature. One is spider and one is snake. Did I pick good ones, huh? Are people afraid of spiders and snakes? Well, if you are afraid of spiders and you are afraid of snakes, then you might be missing out on some very important aspects of spiders and snakes. Now, I must admit that I have deep respect for spiders and snakes because I'm not the person who studies spiders, arachnologist perhaps, and the person who studies snakes. I'm not an expert in identifying snakes, the venomous spiders. I'm not that. So I respect, and I would anyway, I would respect all snakes, all spiders, so that I wouldn't expose myself to their true nature, which might be to bite in protecting their own territory. And that is part of their nature. So if you are overwhelmed by the fear of spiders and snakes, what might happen is a lack of understanding, and you might miss out on what their true power is. Now, if I ask you, well, what is the power of a spider? What is the power of a spider? There was one time I was doing a distance session for a person in another state who was having difficulty with one of the joints in her body, and she was very concerned about this because she was going to be traveling overseas, doing a lot of walking, and it was she wanted to heal quickly. That was her goal in all of this. She wanted to heal quickly so that she would have ease and comfort while she was doing all that extra walking on her vacation. And during the session, Spider came through. And Spider was talking about the web. So I've included in this picture the picture of the web. And Spider said, my web, my silk threads are stronger than steel cables. Well, I had to look that up later, and yeah, it's true. Steel cables. If you have a spider web as thick as a steel cable, then the spider web cable will be stronger than the steel cable. It's a very strong material. And so the spider was coming through in that message to offer a web around her joint that would provide extra strength and stability energetically to help accomplish the goal she had of walking with ease and grace on vacation. And I was just in wonder and awe that Spider would come through for that. Now, we're getting ahead of ourselves just a little bit because I wanted to talk about this in our last episode of the Working with Animals webinar, but I just found it to be so enlightening to work with Spider in that way. We do have spiders in our house, and I'm very happy because they're working on catching all the ants. We seem to have an ant problem at the moment, and the spiders are helping. So I'm grateful for the spiders in keeping the ants out. Now, snakes are also a very interesting energy. I love working energetically with snakes. I appreciate them so much for their flexibility, for the power they have in their sensitivity, for their ability to taste the air, to see, to feel, and to move. And all of these are powers that they embody. In embodying these powers, they give gifts to us, gifts of knowledge, gifts of sensitivity, gifts of their power. And if you ask, then, or if you understand what they do, who they are in their physical nature, then many of these pieces of information you get from their biology can translate into how they can work with you as healers. We call it their medicine, the medicine that they offer. So you may, in working with animals, adopt their medicine and say, I would like to have this sensitivity. For example, both of these animals, spider and snake, are both very sensitive. Doesn't the spider in the center of the web detect very subtle movements, whether the wind is blowing or some kind of prey touches the web? Isn't there great sensitivity involved that spider has? We don't always think about that when we're working with animals. What about snake? The sensitivity that snake has. I would love some of that sensitivity. I would love especially some of that flexibility with all those beautiful vertebrae that the snake has. I would love that. I would love to adopt that medicine as part of my own. I'm hearing, yes, you have already. So a snake does show up in sessions for people who are having back problems, for example. Snake will help to bring them into alignment, but it is my understanding of working with snake that allows me that knowledge and allows me to adopt that power and that gift as my medicine. Those are gifts that have been given to me. What are the next steps here? Well, we just talked about the physical nature of animals, their structure, their anatomy, their physiology, how they move, and their sensory organs, their different systems, nervous system, digestive, reproductive, etc. And so the physical nature of animals, understanding that helps us work with animals. It helps us develop our own sensory intuition. Now, the next steps, we want to delve a little deeper. Next week, we'll be talking about the emotional aspects of working with animals, and then we'll follow it up with the spiritual aspects of working with animals. In working with animals, I just want to say that it has been my humble honor to be partnering with animals in this lifetime, that animals have been my greatest teachers, that they have helped me develop my skills, my sensitivities, so that I can work with myself, work on myself, and work with other animals. By developing these skills as a healer, I would love to see you do the same. I would love to see you work with all animals with ease and grace. And you do that by understanding, by noticing, by becoming aware, by becoming more sensitive to who they are in the world, and understanding also that they do have emotions, they do have feelings, they do have life purposes, they do have a mission to be here with us. Where will your path lead you? Will you become an animal healer? Will you take your healing abilities and your skills and transform yourself to be more sensitive in working with animals? Will you develop your sensory intuition? Will you be the kind of person that animals will show up at your door or climb into your lap or want to talk to you because you're the one who gets them? Wouldn't that be great? And if you're already doing that, yay, I love it. So where will your path lead you? Well, it might lead you to a similar place where it led me. It led me to working with my own personal animals and to writing my book, Heal Together, where in working with Ginger, a dog I had before the one I have now, who had very serious health conditions, I had to learn overnight how to take care of her with diabetes. And when she had her spleen rupture at age 12 and a half, at a time when most people would say, gee, there's nothing I can do. Well, that's what the vets told us. There's nothing we can do. I'm sorry. She's got 16 to 60 days. And I said, I know what to do. And I knew what to do because I was connected. I wasn't doing Reiki at that time, but I quickly learned Reiki because Ginger was my teacher. So I encourage you to either get my book or talk to me some more, take a class perhaps. Let me know what your questions are. I would love to see you be one of the sensitive ones, one of the real true healers who is comfortable working with all kinds of animals, even spiders and snakes. And that's me. I'm Rosemary. This is my dog, Gracie, and I want to thank you for being here. The best way to reach me is through my website, secondnaturehealing.com. You can also visit illuminationreiki.com, which is a website devoted to teaching Reiki classes. You can email me, rosemary@secondnaturehealing.com. If you're not registered for the Healer's Journey webinar, please do so. Go to secondnaturehealing.com/webinar.html. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm very glad that you are here and doing your part in your healer's journey. Take care and have a wonderful evening.